and welcome to the Board of Finance meeting. Garrity, Chairman. Call the meeting to order officially at 7 p.m. If anybody has any issues, kind of a wave or something, let us know. That's clear. All right. We'll call the roll. Myself, of course, Mike Doherty, Chairman, present. Vice Chairman, Fred Chamorro.
Here.
Clerk, David Fortin.
Present.
Mr. Bernardi is excused. Roy Bradbury.
Present.
Jeff Kelleher.
Here.
Charlene Cutler.
Present.
Mayor Barry.
Oh, sorry. The audio was cutting up. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And Michelle Watts.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next order of business is to seek an alternate, and Bernardi has already designated Mr. Key to take his spot this evening. We do not need to address the seating of an alternate.
I'm having a hard time with this audio. Could you shut off whatever?
At this time, does anyone have any items they wish to add to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I wish to add to the agenda under new business. We'll make it 7D, the Woodstock Academy Capital Improvement Assessment.
All right. You have a motion for that?
That's a motion.
That's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Jeff Kelleher.
Kelleher seconds. All right. I vote in favor. Mr. Chamorro?
Aye.
Fortin?
Aye.
Key?
Aye.
Kelleher?
Aye.
And Mr. Bradford?
He should be there.
All right, well, motion carries. We have enough votes for that. All right, now we'll move on to the, that's added as item 7D under new business, and we will move on to approve the minutes of the May 5th, 2020 special meeting. Do I have a motion there?
Motion to approve.
Chamorro moves, second.
I'll second it. Dave Fortin.
Okay, Mr. Fortin seconds. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Bradford.
item 6C. It seems a little undefined whether the approval to use the health funds was for the current year or for 2021. I think some clarification is necessary that it was not anything we specifically approved for 1920, in that it would violate Prop 46. Other than that, nothing.
Okay, that will come up. That will come up under discussion under item 7D.
No.
Oh, okay. You're,
That needs to be corrected. The request.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you, Mr. Frederick.
Mike, you're cutting in and out. I'm catching like half of what you're saying. I'm sorry, but it's really hard to understand what you're saying.
I don't.
No problem.
Is it possible, Mike, to move you closer to the microphone, to whatever you're speaking into?
You want to try that?
You can try that. I know people usually don't have a hard time hearing me.
Yeah, that's nobody wanted to say that.
That's all right. I'm not offended by it.
That seems to be much better.
Yes,
agree.
yes.
And Karen, I just to let you know that I sat in on the Board of Selectmen's meeting, and the same thing with when Jay was speaking, caught about half of what he said, because I think they're too far away from the microphone.
Okay, I'll try to let him know that maybe the next time we figure out the microphone system better.
You're coming in, but for me, from my perspective, you're coming in much clearer. Thank you.
Okay,
I know we had this discussion after the last Board of Finance meeting because we were having some issues hearing everyone out there. And so I don't know if anything was ever done with that, but we can look into it. So now I will return to Mr. Bradrick. Again, under the minutes, Mr. Bradrick, there was a correction you wanted made?
I requested that it be noted that it was not a specific approval to use the funds for fiscal year 2019-2020. Other than that, I have nothing.
yeah, already been transferred.
Yeah, that approval had already been made and the transfers had been made.
Whether they made the transfers or not is immaterial. It would fund the 2019-2020 budget over the Prop 46 limit. We're already maxed out. I just don't think that the Finance Board approved that specifically, and it needs to be clarified. That's all.
Well, if you're talking about the money that was taken from the money that was taken from the reserve account, is that what we're discussing?
Correct. The $150,000 that was requested from the health reserve account, and it's their money, and yes, they can use it. We agreed that, but we never said in the motion or the motion which was passed that it was for the current fiscal year.
Well, the year needs to be corrected. You're right.
19, 20, 2020.
That was the intent of that was to use those funds for the 1920 fiscal year. The original intent, and that money, spending that money from the reserve account does in fact not violate Prop 46. It's not an expenditure above their limit because that money is there basically as a savings account to cover unexpected costs in the healthcare item. And that's what they had planned for and asked for. And we did in fact approve it. But the date was for the was actually for the 1920 fiscal year.
Well, I disagree, but that's not my decision.
We will in fact change that so that the last line under item C, item 6, like C, the last line. Dave Fortin, if you're there, you can let me know that you got this. That should be changed to fiscal year 1920.
Yeah, I've noted it.
Okay, thank you.
Do
Any other discussion?
we do have a clerk taking notes, right?
Indeed.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I don't take every note, but I did mark that.
No. All right, any other discussion on the minutes?
Mike, just to clarify for Roy's question, as part of their budget in 1920, that money was part of their budget that was approved. We never made the actual transfer. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what we approved, to make that transfer from the town held fund.
So it's not an additional appropriation above and beyond the original budget.
Correct.
So we're all clear on that.
Yes.
Okay, that's how I understood it.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none. All those in favor? Myself, aye. Mr. Chamorro?
Aye.
Mr. Fortin?
Aye.
Mr. Bradrick?
Aye.
Kelleher?
Aye.
And Mr. Sheed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the instructions for public comment. There is no public comment at this time, but we will have public comment under item number 8. And just a few ground rules. Anyone who wishes to speak, be sure that you state your name prior to speaking. And if you have a title such as a member of another board or just a citizen, please say so. When you join the meeting, it's best if you mute yourself. That way there, we don't pick up all the background noise from wherever you may be talking from. And then you can unmute yourself at the time that you're called upon to speak. A lot of times all it takes is just tapping the space bar to do that. If you wish to ask a question at any time during the meeting, just click on the chat button and type that question in. And then when the time comes, we will address the question. If you have a question later during the meeting and you are on a cell phone, all you have to do is hit *9 on your cell phone, and we'll realize that you have a question, and we'll address it from there. All right, we'll move on to old business. First item, business, the update on the state budget. Karen, do you have anything on that?
Currently, Karen Fitzpatrick, treasurer. Currently, I just wanted to note that we have received town aid growth funds for fiscal year ending June 30th. And we also received money from municipal grants and aid in the amount of $68,767. That money is now a committed fund. The auditors committed that last year. So therefore, it is restricted for specific things for highway projects and equipment and that type of stuff. So I'm sure that our highway foreman will be using that money appropriately. Other than that, I really don't have any other state updates at this time, other than what I presented at the last meeting. We received all of our ECS. It was about $187,000 more than what we budgeted. All of that surplus will go towards funding next fiscal year's budget.
Questions? Comments? All right, now we'll move on to the next item. Update on the local bridge project.
Right now on the local bridge project, we really don't have any further updates other than it's still, going through the engineering process. They are not in the final stages yet. I know John Navarro's been trying to work with CHA, which is the new company that has bought out CME. They were our original engineering firm working on the local bridge project. So as soon as I have more updates, I will let you know. As far as timing, I think things got a little bit behind because we're still trying to qualify for STEEP and we have to go for further permitting. That's what I understand. I've been in touch with our financial advisor and our bond counsel, Dave Pitney, just to kind of discuss some options, but realistically at this time, it's still too early to do any type of financing because we don't really know when we'll be able to go out to bid or start construction. If the rates continue to be in favor, depending on the time, it may be in favor to not take a ban and go directly to a full bond if the interest rates, like I said, favorable. But that's something I'll further discuss with the bond counsel and the financial advisor as we get closer towards going out to bid.
Questions or comments? All right, we'll move on to update on the town hall renovations. As you all know, we had approved the expenditure of some funds for emergency renovations for safety purposes here at the town hall. Karen, do you have an update on?
I think Jay Swan is on. He was supposed
I am
to
here. I am here calling in from downtown North Woodstock. I will give you an update. John Navarro's been in daily. Many of the materials that you used to see when you came into the lobby have been removed, including things off the wall. He's been there daily. The door going into the tax collector's office was removed. The wall was closed. We've got a glass service window that's been put in with shelves. He's working on the right-hand side that is the town clerk's side. Glass has been removed. He's also working on that. Paul Johnson, electrician, was in today. We were looking at areas that have to be moved. Lines have to be moved. Lights have to be moved. In conjunction with Dick Barron, Fire Marshal, there are certain lights that have to be up and certain lights that have to be changed. Anyway, it's moving along very well and very quickly, and we believe that it'll be done in approximately 3 weeks. As you enter the town hall from the outside doors, the next set of doors in those walls, that's going to be moved back about 10 feet or so on the hallway. And so again, 3 weeks and we should be good to go.
Thank you, Jay. Anyone have any questions on that? All right, hearing none, we will move on. Thanks again, Mr. Swan. New business, item 7, use of the contingency funds to purchase finance software and servers. Do we have an update on that, Karen?
Yes, I included so this actually has been going on since I believe last October or November, and I apologize for taking this long. However, we're under the scrutiny of our IT. So basically, we need to have, the town hall has 3 hard servers for the finance department, and one of them is going to need to be replaced. It is an old Lenovo. We want to replace it with an HP. The other 2 servers are still pretty decent. Those would need to have some software updates from Microsoft. These updates will allow us to migrate other technology updates that we need because our computers have been malfunctioning on sporadically. We're not receiving the updates. We're getting bumped out of the system. It's because we believe the servers are not able to host the information. They're too outdated. At least that's what I somewhat understand. This does not mean that it's a permanent fix. We're still looking into going to the cloud eventually. But at this point, we probably may not even need to use contingency funds. During the year, we have, kept an eye on our budgets and things like that. And so there's a little bit of money left over in our town hall office supplies and our data processing office supplies. So I think we may be able to cover that expense under those funds without going over any of those budgets. But we would still like to have permission, if need be, if we, something else comes up over the next 3 weeks, if we're a little short, we'd like to be able to use some of the contingency funds.
Questions? Comments?
Yeah, Karen, this is Jeff.
Yeah.
Can you just confirm, did we appropriate some money for that before? Has that been used, or is this?
No, so back in November, we were supposed to come back with quotes, and our IT person, Eric from Savage, was supposed to come and kind of give your group a presentation of what was needed. But I think at that time, we were also having some issues, if I'm not mistaken, with our website. We thought we may overextend the website budget because there's some cemetery database that needs to be maintained and the new company can't do it. So the Board of Finance has given us permission to overextend the data processing budget by about $3,500.
Okay.
I don't know if this will cut into that. I don't think
No,
so.
no, that jogs my memory. That's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
So we can't just give their permission to overexpend other line items to cover this and mop the whole thing up at our next meeting in September?
Dave, not to interrupt, we don't need permission to overexpend a line item. We can't overexpend a budget. So this will not put us over budget. We're going to use funds that we have in the town hall, and we're going to overextend a line item.
Okay, so why do?
I don't think we need to use the contingency after all, but we're just asking to have some support just in case some other emergency comes up and uses the money from that budget that we were planning on using to purchase these items.
Prior to looking into a little deeper into it, it was thought that it was going to bring them over the budget within that department.
Now it's not.
But because there have been other things that have not been expended, at this time it will not exceed that budget. So when the agenda was done, there was the thought that they may need to spend up to $5,000 beyond what the budget was, but that no longer. So, I mean, it may come back again at a later time, but at this time they're not looking. They are not looking to take any money from the.
So we have no real action item here other than to say that we'll support them if the worst were to happen.
Correct. Any other questions, comments on that? Next item is a request from the Quasit School Advisory Committee looking for a transfer of funds. And we have Myra Pratt is with us. Yeah, Myra?
Hi. Good evening, everybody. I have to apologize, first of all, because I've already been kicked out of the meeting once. So if I get kicked out, I'll do my best to come back in, and just excuse me if that happens. I don't have good internet, apparently, when you're next door to the academy. So what I'm asking tonight for the Quasit School Committee, which has not met, honestly, since January because of the COVID, is to take the $3,950 that you earmarked for us in the budget for painting and put it in the special account. What happened was we had a really difficult time finding someone to do the painting because it's a very small job. It's basically the trim around the eaves. There's some soffits that need some fixing. And the side of the fence behind the school building needs to be painted. We couldn't get anyone. Everybody kept telling us, oh yes, we'll look at it. We'll give you an estimate, and no one did. So right about the time the pandemic happened, we had someone who was interested. And then of course, the pandemic happened and we couldn't do anything about it. So I have really a strong feeling that this will be taken care of over the summer. If you would be kind enough to let us just keep the money until the summer or even, you know, throughout this year just to get it done. I think it's really important. The woodwork is getting, you know, worn out and needs to be repainted in order to preserve it. So I would request that we have that $3,950 moved to the special account.
Questions?
What is a special account?
Fund 29.
Fund 29, David.
It's their special revenue.
The special revenue account that they have for the upkeep and maintenance of the
On donations and things like that.
Right. We normally have a $500 a year budget. And then last year, of course, you guys gave us extra money in the budget for the painting. But we also have this other account, which is not a lot of money. I have to say it's what, a little over $1,000 perhaps. That as we've gotten donations over the years, sometimes they've been memorial donations and things like that. Or if someone's rented the school building, like when they do the Jog for Judy at Christmas, they rent the school building. That money goes into this other account. And then we're able to use it for things like, for example, we're having a box made for one of the switches there that the kids broke during Quasit School Week. So we can still display the switch, and protect the history of Woodstock. So we're using it for things that are kind of small in the building that need to get done.
Mike, is this a non-lapsing account?
No, it's a special revenue account.
That it's
Money has to come in and go out. It's like a revolving account. I kind of refer it to like you have a credit card, so you have a balance and you add money to it or you spend money from it. It's a legal account that's specifically for the purpose of Quasit School. That's why the auditors have us set it up that way. So if they get donations and things like that, it doesn't really support our general fund. It's money for them. So these special revenue accounts that we have, like recreation, that money sits in that account and it's really pretty much earmarked for Quasit School only. So they can't take this and use it for anything else. It has to be on things for Quasit School.
okay. But the current amount for the painting that she's referring to, was that a budgeted 1920 item?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
So basically what she's looking to do or asking for us to allow them to do is to take this money that we had already approved for them, transfer it to this special account. So this way here, they're not going to be able to get this done by the end of this budget year. But before the budget year closes, if we transfer the funds to this account 29, then it will be there so that this summer or first time it's available or feasible to do, the money will be there. It would not have been lost and had to been turned back to the general government.
Can we transfer this with a restriction that it can only be used for the painting?
We could, I believe.
Yeah,
I don't see why not.
And that's fine.
I mean,
That's fine with us.
Myra says she's fine with that, and the thing is, I mean, basically,
that's what it was
you gotta
for.
look at it. It's kind of a goodwill thing. if we allow them to take this money, it's supposed to go towards painting, and then they turn around and use it for something else, then don't come looking for more money from us.
I wouldn't do that. I'm not.
I don't foresee a problem, but I mean, if you want to put that, somebody wants to make a motion and put it in as such, that's fine.
I was actually going to offer that if we didn't use all the money, that we would return it to the town anyway. So I think that's important. So, you know, as long as we have that amount, I'm not sure what the final bill is going to be, but whatever the painting is, we can certainly return the rest of the money afterwards, because it was earmarked for painting and that's all we need it for. And if something else comes up in the future, you know that we'll be knocking on your Board of Finance door. So.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair. Mike?
Go ahead, Karen.
Actually, when I looked back into the budget, so part of that $3,950, $500 is actually their budget. That should be for regular maintenance or for whatever they need.
Okay.
The painting amount was for $3,400. So I just would hate for them to turn back money to the town if it was something for maintenance purposes. So if you just restrict the whole amount for painting and they don't use it all for painting, we're really taking money from them. I would say at least restrict $3,400 towards painting and let them keep the other $500. That would be my opinion.
And that would be great, because we still have a bill coming to you before the end of June that might cover that $500. So that would be awesome.
We won't transfer it till the end of the fiscal year anyway, because we have to make sure that any expenditures come in up until mid-August get paid out of the actual budget, and then we would transfer the remainder.
Okay, thank you.
Tomorrow.
I'd like to make a motion that we transfer for the Quonset School District $3,950 to their special revenue account, of which $33,450 is can be earmarked only for painting, or restricted only to painting of their facility.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it. Jeff Kelleher.
Kelleher seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, I vote in favor. Mr.
Mike.
Chimera?
Mike,
Hold on.
David, you muted yourself if you're trying to talk.
sorry, I told this, I let go to spacebar. I think it's, isn't it 3450, not 3350?
It's actually $3,400.
3,400 is what it would be.
34.5, isn't it? 3,450.
No. $500 is their actual budget, and then it was 34. Oh, okay, you're right. Yeah, 3450. I apologize.
Correct.
3450.
So let's just make sure the motion's right. It's for 3450.
Correct.
Painting.
And then you called for a vote, and I did have a question first. I'm sorry. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
The Special Revenue Fund 29 does not include the $1,320 that's in the CNR?
No, it does not.
That money was supposed to be for the window. If Myra can correct me if I'm wrong, but they had been doing several renovation projects throughout the years. And there was renovations, I think, to the windows, and there was a couple different phases of renovations, and that money was left over, and we have not closed that out yet because we didn't know, we didn't get a report that it was finalized, that the project was done. So maybe Myra can update us on that.
We have one shutter that's still being worked on, and when that's finished, we'll close that account out.
Okay, I just wanted to understand if there were two accounts or one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, back to vote again. So myself, I'm in favor. Mr. Chamorro?
Aye.
Mr. Fortin?
Aye.
Mr. Braderick?
Aye.
Mr. Kelleher?
Aye.
And Mr. Shi?
think we
Sorry,
lost.
yes.
Yes?
He's on meeting now.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All
Okay,
right,
thank you.
Thank you, Myra.
All right, thanks. Have a great meeting and a great night. I'll talk to you later.
All right, you do the same now.
Okay, thanks.
Be safe. All right, item number C is a CNR request from Woodstock EMS and WFPA. Some information was sent to you all regarding the purchase of the Lucas automatic compression tools for the ambulance. This was brought up to the Board of Selectmen, and they approved that at their meeting this past Thursday to be forwarded to us. Going forward, if we also approve it, it would require a town meeting to go on from there, or depending on how this everything works with the COVID virus, there is the possibility that we may have to have another special meeting just to approve it for the time to come. But right now, the plan is to get a town meeting going and to approve this, as well as some other business which has to be taken care of. So it's in the amount of $69,920.72. There is in the five-year capital plan $70,000. This would purchase 4 units. The plan right now, to my understanding, is one would go to the Muddy Brook Fire Department, one would go to the Bungay Fire Department, and the other 2 would be on the 2 Woodstock ambulances. Muddy Brook currently has one. That would become a spare that could be rotated around as needed when one is out of service or out of town in the case of a blade call. I don't know if you have any questions on it, and I believe Chief Eric Young is with us.
Yep, I'm here. If you guys have questions, I can fill you in.
All right, so does anyone have any questions for Chief Young?
Yeah, my question is, I'm looking at the quote, and item 1 and item 7 appear to have the same description. What is the difference between those 2 items?
Item 7 is a maintenance contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm toggling between my windows on my computer. Yeah, it is a contract. So at the time of purchase, they actually cut you a 15% reduction for the maintenance contract. That's why I believe it says at the bottom in fine print, it's from 2020 to 2022. It's 2 years for the 4 units.
Anyone else have any other questions? Karen?
Yeah, I have one question, Eric. Karen Fitzpatrick, treasurer. I just want to make sure that moving forward, though, if we do purchase these machines, that your budget will be able to accommodate the maintenance without coming back and asking for further funding.
Yeah, so right now we're paying roughly $1,200 yearly for Muddy Brook's unit. If we were to approve this as is, we wouldn't have this affect our budget until 2023. As you see, though, it would be probably an additional almost $5,000 at that time yearly from then on out to recertify and have a maintenance contract for these units. So it would eventually become an issue.
Okay, I just wanted to to make sure, because I'd like to have the selectmen know in advance if this is going to cause the budget to increase annually after this initial contract expires.
Any other questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion for approval to move this on to a town meeting for approval?
Mike, I had a question.
Go ahead, Barry.
Sorry, I was on mute. It was a good line I gave you. I was just curious whether there was any monetary set aside for any training that might have to be done on the equipment.
To my knowledge, right now, the majority of our EMS people have already been trained, but there will be, before this new equipment is put into service, there'll be a refresher for all three departments, because this is something, like I say, it's basically something that's going to be shared by everyone, but the whole purpose of this is to get it there as quick as possible. Make it so that it's sustainable for everybody, so everybody would have a hands-on as to how it's used, and if there is any differences between the current one that is housed at Muddy Brook and these 4 units that are coming in now, everybody will be updated on that.
Okay.
The sales,
Chief Young?
the sales rep actually has verbally committed to bringing the units herself and actually training the whole department and every EMT that would be deploying these units free of charge. Well, not free of charge. I'm sure it's hidden somewhere in that bill, but they did say that that is included, that they will send a rep out to train any untrained personnel.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So our action here is to approve the CNR request and recommend that the Board of Selectmen move this to a town meeting for approval from the citizens.
And that's a motion, David?
Yeah, himself again.
He muted himself.
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Sheets seconds. Any further discussion? Mr. Swan?
Yeah, if I could just jump in. I have a dog that was just let in, which he could be shot at any moment. Anyway, that said, the issue with the town meeting, if we follow the governor's directives, it's conceivable that this may be approved without going to a town meeting. We're just going to have to wait and see with ordering issues, et cetera, et cetera. So I really don't know how this will play out because of the executive orders from the governor.
That's understandable. In fact, Karen and I had discussed that earlier, and we came to the conclusion that with the fact that things are changing day to day, in fact, it's going to be another big rollover on the 17th here as to what can and can't open, as far as to the numbers of people that are allowed to congregate for inside meetings. And things of that nature, with the speed at which it's changing, it's my opinion that if it's possible to put this out and let the public weigh in on it, just like anything else, rather than just saying, well, we're going to go ahead and spend it, then I think that's the best way to do it. But if it comes to a time critical issue, where, in other words, the quoted costs are no longer going to be any good, they're going to go up, or whatever, and things don't look like they're going to change, then I would think that we could call very easily call an emergency meeting and put it to a vote and go ahead with it under the governor's rules.
Mike, I absolutely agree. This should be put out for public input. I think they should understand the advantages and what we're trying to do to protect and provide for the citizens in Woodstock. But again, as you said, and I agree, we don't know how this COVID thing is going to play out. So we just have to be aware of that and do what we can. But again, if we can put the information out for input from taxpayers, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, because actually this would be next year's budget, so the money technically is not available until July 1st anyway. But I would say the best thing to do is wait and see how things play out over the next couple of weeks and go from there. Or if we get the approval right now to move it forward to our town meeting, then we can address any other issues that come up after that. Any other questions, comments, or?
So, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Karen.
I just want to say that we currently do have $150,533 in uncommitted CNR money available if this was to get approved before July 1st. Again, it would still have to go to a town meeting. My suggestion would be, if it can't go to a town meeting, to pretty much do it the same like we did the budget. We could have a information up on the website. We could have a comment section on there where people could come in and make their comments after they review the quotes and make a description of what these services provide to the townspeople. But just keep it in mind that the longer we wait, the harder it is for them to be able to get this equipment. And like Mike said, you know, we don't want to spend more than we have to, but we do have funds available in CNR now that could be used towards this if you felt the need to approve it sooner than later.
And if I can just clarify, so if we vote to move this to a town meeting and there can't be a town meeting, the money still can't be spent without another vote by the Board of Finance, is that correct?
Correct. You would have to follow executive order. I believe it's 7S, but we would have the attorney confirm that.
Yeah, we would actually call another meeting, an emergency meeting, and vote specifically on that item.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none. I myself am in favor. Mr. Chamorro?
Aye.
Mr. Wharton?
Aye.
Mr. Braderick?
Aye.
Mr. Kelleher?
Aye.
And Mr. Sheed?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much. Motion passes. Okay, the next item is 7D. In regards to the Woodstock Academy construction cost payment for this year. Another item that would have to go, this would have to go to a town meeting as well as a referendum to pass at the town meeting, and that would be the expenditure that was previously agreed to in last year's budget as a two-year thing. Only issue that I have with it is the fact that the original was
212,483.
212,483 was the original number for 2 years, which we had agreed to pay last year, and we did. And then we expected that we would have the same amount again this year. But the Academy has changed that. So this year they're looking for 218,136. I believe that because we had the agreement and it was approved by both the town attorney and the auditing firm, that we should pay our share again this year. Going forward, next year is a whole new thing. But for this upcoming budget, I think that we should pay what we had originally agreed to, which is just the $212,483. Discussion.
So does that mean the Board of Education will have to make up the difference from their budget?
Well, I had that conversation with Eddie, and this was at quite some time back, and I told her that was my opinion at the time, and I said if in fact that's what the board decided that they wanted to do, again, this is what I have just got done saying is strictly my opinion. But if the board decides that we pay just what we had originally agreed to, then the Board of Ed, in fact, if they couldn't negotiate with the academy as to the additional amount, which is $5,600, $53, I believe it is, above and beyond, then that would have to come out of the Board of Education budget. Anyone else?
Mike?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We agreed to pay last year. I'm not certain there's any definitive decision, vote, or anything else that said we would pay this year. Yes, last year was last year, this year is this year. They've changed the numbers, and we now know this is going to continue into the infinite future. And my position is it is not a capital expense at this point. Maybe it was last year, but not going forward, not continuing. And whatever we did last year should not bind us this year. There's money in the health fund that could be transferred to the school, and they could use it for anything they seem to see fit, and they could pay that if they chose. But I think we're premature to assume that this is something that the town agreed to last year. I don't believe we did.
We agreed to pay it over a 2-year period of time, whomever was going to pay it. And at that time, it was decided and approved by the attorneys and the auditors that we could use money out of our 5-year capital plan for the expense. It wasn't said that it was okay for 2 years. It was said that it was okay at that time. So we're going by the assumption that if it was okay then, this is the same bill for the same project. We were given 2 years to pay for it. So therefore, we're looking for this year, once again, to take that remaining portion out of the 5-year capital plan, which is in fact covered in this year's capital plan, which was approved at our meeting.
Just to clarify a few things, Mike, if I could. So we're talking about using CNR funds again, right? And this is not part of the budget that was passed, because these are reserve funds that we're going to use to pay a bill.
Correct.
Yeah. The Board of Ed does have the 218-136 in their 5-year capital plan, which would allow them to request from us the money. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So tonight, what we're looking to do is figure out what the method we would use when we get that request would be to pay it. Do we need a formal, I mean, we're gonna do something here tonight, but do we need a formal request from the Board of Ed to pay this bill?
We basically, we have been requested formally, yes.
Okay. Okay.
I'm looking to see if I have it right here with. Yeah, it was a letter that the invoice was forwarded to us as of June 1st, 2020.
Okay.
In the amount of $218,136. Again, that's in excess of what the original agreement was. So I have a different take on what the number should be. I'm okay with requesting that it come from the CNR under the approved 5-year capital plan.
So Mike, can you clarify, because I don't have the capital plan in front of me, what exactly was requested by the Board of Ed for this?
For that item in the capital plan, they requested $218,136.
Thank you.
But Mike,
yes.
last year we paid half of what they requested, which was $212,483.
Correct.
I have reservations about that to begin with, but I don't think there's any way we should be agreeing to one number and then moving forward with a higher number. If anything, I agree with you. We should go with the number that we established last year.
Well, if someone can make a motion to that effect, we could have some further discussion, or we could move on to a vote.
I'll move that we pay the amount $212,483 that we paid last year, which would complete their request that they had sent to us in 2019.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Anyone?
Sure, I'll second it, Mike.
All right, Mr. Horton seconds. All right, any further discussion?
I disagree because we've had this discussion in our prior meetings about this, and we included the full 218,136 in a 5-year capital improvement. I think this is just trying to revisit what we already decided, and I think we should go with what's in our previously approved in our 5-year capital improvement plan. I don't like what the Academy is doing. I'll make that clear, but I think we've already made that decision, and we're trying to look at it and try to reverse the prior decision.
I would tend to agree with Fred. If the Board of Ed has requested that amount in their capital plan, in the end they'll be left looking for the extra $5,500 roughly. And it's, you know, if our concern is that the Academy is changing the amount, that doesn't really matter because the Academy is going to get what they're requesting one way or another. And it just puts a little more extra burden, maybe not very much, but I know that the Board of Education budget is pretty tight already. So we're asking them to find more money out of a pretty tight budget. So those are my thoughts.
Time for somebody to stand up to the Academy because this is getting way out of hand. And I think paying them what was originally agreed to over a 2-year period of time is more than fair. And how it's handled from there, that's a whole different ballgame. But this is something that we had agreed to in last year's budget, and the number $212,483 per year for 2 years, and now we're changing the game. We never really resolved that at a Board of Finance meeting that we were going to pay the additional $5,600 There was a lot of comment about the fact that we should never pay more than what we had originally agreed to pay. And as far as what is in the actual capital plan, it's not required if we spend whatever they list. They could have been wondering what the bill was going to be, and for that particular item, they could have put $300,000 in there under that one item. But that doesn't mean that we have to approve that.
Well, no, we don't. And in fact, in the end, our contract, or the Board of Education's contract with the with the Woodstock Academy, essentially says they send us a bill and we pay it, and that's the end of it. So I see in principle why you would want to do this, but in reality, you're kicking this $5,000 whatever extra is kicked down the road to the pre-K to 8 system to pay for that bill. And I think I'll just end my comments there because clearly we don't agree.
No, that's
no. I'm not upset. I'm just stating my opinion.
I honestly see your side of this, Jeff. I do, but you know, it's gotten to the point now that, as you say, basically the contract from the academy says we send you a bill, you pay it. That's that.
Right.
Anyone else?
I still believe that the academy is changing the rules of the game once again, and that makes this tuition. I had sent everyone a copy of Chris Sanford's letter, and it said tuition, and that's a periodic expense, and it's convenient to take it out of CNR because it doesn't hurt K through 8, but it doesn't change. You know, an apple is not an orange. It doesn't belong here. There's no asset that we are capitalizing. We're just handing money to the academy. We're doing this to subvert the intent of Prop 46. Maybe this year not, but it doesn't belong out of CNR. But I know others don't follow my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. Anyone else?
Well, just to be clear about the 5-year capital plans, those are not necessarily commitments. I'm looking at the public schools one right now. There are things on here to go back to 2011. So, you know, I think it was said that it was approved to, you know, to pay 218,136. That's not the case. That's what the number that the school district has put on your capital plan. We can pay up to that upon request. I just want to keep things clear.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? All right, if not, we have a motion on the floor to approve to send to town meeting request from the capital non-recurring account in the amount of $212,483 to pay the second half of the construction costs for the roof and fuel tank project at the Woodstock Academy. I would vote in favor of that. Mr. Chamora?
No.
Mr. Fortin?
Aye.
Mr. Braderick?
Opposed.
Mr. Kelleher?
No.
Mr. Sheed?
Aye.
All right, we have a tie vote. Does anyone wish to make another motion?
I would move to send the to a town meeting the amount of $218,136 to be taken from CNR to cover the bill from the academy.
I second.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Mr. Chamorro seconds. Any discussion? Other than what we've already had on the original motion.
Well, I have a question as to the timing of, like, when are we even going to be able to do that? And when are we going to know? And how is the Board of Ed supposed to plan going into next year if they have to take this chunk of money out of their K-8 budget? Like, when are we even going to be able to have a town meeting?
Well, didn't we just have that discussion with the first selectman and about the prior EMS request? Wouldn't that be on the same agenda?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
Generally, the expenditures normally are in September. Go ahead, Karen. Karen can explain that.
So basically what we normally do is when the money from CNR comes actually from the surplus and the expenditures on the Board of Selectmen side. So as long as the Board of Selectmen has a surplus, they will request that $218,136 gets committed to the Woodstock Academy payment 2. And that doesn't happen until September. And then they would have to set a town meeting once the Board of Finance approves the transfer and into the CNR. And then we would have to go to a town meeting and then a referendum. So it can take a longer time. Last year we did a little bit early. We approved it before we transferred. That was back, I think, in August. So we could put the request town meeting on the next, Board of Selectmen's town meeting whenever they can schedule one, even if we don't transfer the money at that point.
Right. So if that timing, like we have to wait till September, October, you're a quarter into the school year before they know if they have $218,000 less money. If it doesn't get approved, that doesn't make sense to me.
I was having trouble hearing you there, Megan.
That was Michelle.
Michelle? Bella?
Yep, it's Michelle. Yeah. I was just saying, like, it's the timing of it. If it does have to wait till September or October, if it can't be done more quickly than that, you're a quarter into the school year before they know what their budget's going to be. Because if it doesn't pass at referendum, then that money has to come out of the K-8 budget.
Yes, I realize that, but the thing is, we still have to fund CNR, and that is under part of next year's budget. So if in fact it is September when the transfers are made, we are a quarter into the year. But that's still, I mean, that's the way it's always been done in the past. There was never any, question as to that.
Mike.
What it is, timing wise.
Well,
but if we can approve something now, it just speeds up the process so that come September, we don't have to do an approval and then request a public hearing and a meeting. If we do it now, then there's plenty of time to schedule a public hearing and a referendum for September when the money is transferred. So then the money would be available right away.
Mike?
Go ahead, David.
We could also do this in 2 parts. One is to transfer the money from the undesignated general fund or unreserved to CNR, and the second part would be to approve this expenditure from CNR and recommend that to the Board of Selectmen to take the town meeting. And then come September, the selectmen would understand that instead of $218,000 should be put, if there's $218,000 needs to be put back into the unreserved general fund. That would speed it up significantly.
Yeah, Dave, you still can't do that without a town meeting and a referendum. You can't just transfer money out of your general fund.
No, that would be part of the town meeting and referendum to transfer the money. And the second question would be the
question would be, when can we have these? That's up to the selectmen to decide when we're going to be able to have a town meeting and a referendum. That's, I think, part of the problem that could delay this even more.
But if
I say that's not the issue tonight. The issue tonight is to get it approved, to let the selectmen know that we approved it, put it to town meeting and referendum. That actually happens. That's not our concern tonight. The thing is, do we or do we not approve of it? What else? Megan?
I'm sorry, I didn't know if you wanted me to speak or not. I was trying to be quiet for a little bit. So from what I remember last year, I believe it was it was earlier than June, but I think it was brought up in June before the Board of Finance. And the request was approved to go to, I guess, the Board of Selectmen to set the town meeting. I know at a referendum on August 6th, the request was approved to transfer the money from CNR, and I believe the bill was paid to the Academy in September. I will admit I'm a bit confused by the possible delay and some of the more details you talked about this evening about the Board of Selectmen's role in this. I had understood that the Board of Selectmen, of course, would call the town meeting and set the referendum date. As far as the amount, we did put in our 5-year capital plan for the $218,000. I realize there's a difference of opinion even within the Board of Finance. I can tell you a significant concern I have is maybe to a point that Michelle was making, that if this does get pushed out further, and we did understand last year as well that it is depending on referendum, and of the significant unknowns we have right now for what our school district will look like come the fall, I would like to know that at least some of the knowns have been taken care of, and this is one of our knowns. We really don't know right now what sort of effect having to take another $218,000 out of our school budget will mean to the school district. We know what this bill is right now. I'd like to move this forward.
Thank you, Megan. Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I'm just curious. Had anyone reached out to the Academy why there's a difference in the numbers?
The difference in the number is the amount is being applied per student, and we have more students at the Academy for this year than we did in the previous year.
But we agreed to pay them one amount, and now it's more.
That's correct. That's where the discrepancy and the argument comes in as to the amount we should pay them. Anyone else?
How much is in the remaining health fund at the school?
So Roy, I mean, I know Karen and Mike can answer that, but from the years that I've listened to discussion regarding anything related to our health funds, it must be applied to health related reasons, insurance. We can't take that money and put it somewhere else.
Yeah, Megan, that is actually true. The only thing that we could do with those reserve funds is basically the Board of Finance would have to close it out, put it back to the general fund, and then repurpose that money for something else. I will state that over the last several years, it is in your fiscal budget. You make a note that you plan on using the reserves as part of your budget to pay for your health care costs. That has been approved by our attorney and our auditors in the past. So we had discussed with our auditors for over the next 2 years to use those reserves to offset healthcare costs in the budgets, as long as it's noted and voted on, and they have been voted on. So I would say that at this point, we really shouldn't touch those reserves for health insurance because it's really earmarked for the insurance premiums, although you don't have any other claims. One other comment that I would just like to make is I've been going back and forth with my CNR and your non-lapsing account. So currently right now there's $233,292 in your non-lapsing account, which if there was an urgency to get this bill paid, which could clearly cover the cost of the academy without going through CNR. Are you expecting to have another big surplus at the end of this fiscal budget? Because I know there's some talk about transferring some money into your non-lapsing again. So I'm just kind of curious, you know, if there's an urgency issue with the possibility of using the non-lapsing, which would be an option whether it got passed or not at a referendum. Clarification on the referendum, it's not a fact of not having one, we just don't know when we can have one. So last year we had a referendum to approve this back in August, and then once it was approved, that referendum to pay that amount, the selectmen and the Board of Finance agreed to transfer funds into CNR, and we paid the bill when it came in, I think it was September. So the same process is going to have to take place. You know, whether it's voted on tonight or not, it's going to depend on when we can have a town meeting and a referendum to approve this. That could take 2 more months, and we just don't know. And that's up to the Board of Selectmen.
I guess if it's a question regarding the non-lapsing account, our Board of Ed meets on Thursday night, and we expect to get a report from Janice that night.
Anyone else? Anyone?
I think it's premature. Why don't we table this and see what the non-lapsing looks like?
Well, we have a motion on the floor right now.
I would also add that, of course, the Board of Education does have bills that we still need to pay, and we might have to use some of our balance to pay those bills. So I understand Mr. Bradrick's reasoning. I don't think you should fully expect that we're going to be able to exhaust our non-lapsing account to pay for this, as we have other expenses at the board.
Anyone else before we call this to a vote? All right, hearing none, we have a motion to put to the Board of Selectmen for town meeting and referendum the amount of $218,136 to the Woodstock Academy for the final payment on the project to replace roofs and fuel tanks. From that.
From
David?
From CNR.
Yeah, from the CNR account. All right, I'll vote in favor. Mr. Chamorro?
Yeah, aye.
Mr. Fortin?
Aye.
Mr. Bradrick?
Opposed.
Mr. Kelleher?
Aye.
And Mr. Shi?
No.
Okay. Vote is 4-2, so the motion passes. All right. Public comments. Anyone? Public comment? Okay, we'll move on to other from the board. Anyone else? Anything? Go on to correspondence and announcements. First thing is our next meeting schedule currently is on the 8th of September. And see if I have anything else here. Nope. No one else has anything?
Only that if we were to be able to schedule a town meeting and referendum and get that done sooner, we would schedule a special meeting to finish up this last agenda item rather than waiting.
Let me look.
We'll be able to do that?
Jay's still there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we could, if they were going to schedule a meeting, we could definitely, a town meeting, we could definitely have a special meeting at any time.
That's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
Jay's unmuted if you want him to.
That's, you know, I agree with that, absolutely. This whole COVID thing has affected every aspect of everyone's life. So yeah, Dave, your comment about you have an emergency meeting, if we can in fact schedule a referendum or town meeting earlier, that would be certainly helpful, and I agree.
Thank you, Jay. All right, if no one has anything else, then we'll take a motion for adjournment.
I'll motion to adjourn. Jeff Kelleher.
Thank you, Jeff. We have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Fortin seconds. Mr. Doherty approves. Mr. Tamara?
Hi.
Mr. Fortin?
Aye.
Mr. Bradrick?
Aye.
Mr. Kelleher?
Aye.
And Mr. Sheedy?
Aye.
Thank you all. And